EKU has always been synonymous with champions, champions of quality in our academic programs, champions of stewardship and service throughout our region, and champions of excellence on our playing fields and courts of athletic competition. And it's only fitting that we gather here today on a stage that hosts some of the great entertainers of our time, because the champions that we honor today certainly entertained us in their own performing days here at EKU. More than that, though, what they did is they upheld the high standards of excellence that have long distinguished Eastern by representing their teams and this institution overall with class and with dignity. Just as we can always count on a good show anytime the curtain raises here on the stage at the Center for the Arts, we can always depend on these outstanding men and women to give their best. And the 7 individuals and 1 team that we honor here this afternoon are a big part of the history and the lore of EKU. Michael Benson became EKU's 12th president August 2014, and in a little over 14 months, he has already left his mark on our university with his boundless energy, his infectious can-do spirit, and his far-reaching vision for taking us to even higher levels of excellence. President Benson knows firsthand what it means to don your school colors and compete in athletics. He played junior varsity basketball at Brigham Young University, and a few years later played on the Oxford University basketball team and even coached the Oxford team for a time. He also has run competitive marathons, enjoys golf and skiing, among other pursuits. As president of Southern University, he secured that institution's largest ever gift for athletics. And earlier this year, EKU Athletics announced its largest single gift, a lead cash gift from Donald and Irene Disney toward a $15 million multi-purpose facility to replace the current visitor grandstands on the east side of Roy Kidd Stadium. This is in addition to numerous other improvements to our athletic facilities. It is not uncommon to see the president, wife Debbie, and the entire Benson family at Eastern sporting events, cheering their colonels on to victory. Their support is obviously most appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring to the stage now your University, Eastern Kentucky University president and our #1 fan and cheerleader, Michael Benson.
Well, good morning. Thank you very much for the chance to be here with you. I want to single out Greg and tell him how much I appreciate the terrific job he does as the voice of the Colonels. I've heard a lot of play-by-play announcers, and Greg does a fantastic job. So kudos to you, Greg. Thank you very much. As Greg said, this is an unbelievable facility, and just this season we've had such performers as Crystal Gale and the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and Lyle Lovett was here just a few weeks ago. Daughtry is coming in November, and to have a venue like this in our community and host these unbelievable performers and also events like this, I think speaks to the direction we're headed as a university. You turn on the news, you hear some of the bad things that are going on in collegiate athletics. Not that we don't have our challenges, but I'm so proud of our staff, our coaches, our faculty, and our student athletes that represent EKU so well. And it makes my job as president really easy and really enjoyable when we have things go smoothly. That's, again, it's not to say we won't have some challenges and some hiccups here and there, but I am so proud of the fact that I can go to a practice with my children and not be embarrassed by the way that our coaches behave or the language they use, or be reticent to take my kids around the team and to be with these student athletes. That's not to say they're angels all the time, but by and large, I can take my kids anywhere on campus. And I'm proud of the fact that we could go into a locker room, be with the team, and we're proud of the product that's out there on the field. I hope you've seen some of the improvements that we made on campus. I said to our fall convocation, the way we look and present ourselves to the public says a lot about how we feel about the school. The pride that we take in the way that buildings look. Now, I'll tell you, the Begley building is showing its age, and it's really hard to mask some of that, but we tried it with these 40-foot banners that I hope you've seen that just went up this week, and we're doing some other things that are, we hope, improving the infrastructure. One of the things that you'll see today is as you walk into Roy Kidd Stadium, we've expanded the President's Box because we're going to have more people in it, of course, for home games. We're also holding graduation in the spring outside. I think it's really important for the entire university community to be together for that high water mark of the academic year. So we're trying our best to improve the facility. As Greg said, we're well on our way to raising the funds to build a new multi-purpose facility, which will have a lot of functions. It's going to have a training table. It's going to have a teaching working kitchen and dietetics lab, classrooms, office space for our coaches, weight room, locker rooms. It's going to be state-of-the-art, and I think one of the best in the OVC. As you come into the stadium today, you'll see that we've tried to honor someone who means a great deal to our institution. We've had some great coaches that have been here at EKU, but I would argue none has had more of an impact than Coach Roy Kidd. And Roy is here today with his wife, Sue. And as you walk into the main concourse today, you're going to see up on this expanded President's Box a couple things that denote Roy's record while he was here at EKU. And this is part of that new wall. But I just wanted to show you, this that's going to be up on the wall, Roy, so I'm glad this is your best side. But Roy and Sue, we tip our hat to you, just like we do all of our coaches, but we honor you for the record that you had here and the fact that you're still an integral part of our community, and you mean a great deal to us, so thank you very much. Today is about the inductees and the records that you set, the impact that you had on our campus. Thank you again for being here today. It's going to be a great day today, and homecoming's in a couple of weeks. We hope you certainly will come back. Know that this is your home. We promise to be good stewards of the resources we have here, and as I like to say, go Colonels. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Benson. Our first inductee was a four-year starter for Coach Max Good's EKU basketball team from 1984 to 1988. One of Eastern's all-time favorites, Bobby Collins played in 115 games, scored 863 points, and hauled in 456 rebounds. And as Bobby and I were talking about, I'll never forget the dunk over Bob McCann, the big guy at Morehead State. That's one of my favorite memories of all time. He was nicknamed Cat because he was cat quick. He was in-your-face defensive effort. I mean, he just played in-your-face defense. And he also totaled 190 steals in his career. He led the OVC in steals his senior year. After being named to the league's all-freshman team, he finished 9th in the OVC in assists his sophomore. As a junior, he was 4th in the conference in steals, with a season high of 19 points against Morehead, 11 rebounds against Murray State, 10 assists against Morehead State, or 10 assists against Wilmington, I should say. Eastern advanced to the finals of the OVC tournament before losing to Austin Peay 71-68 on a last-second shot that was just inside half court. His final season, he was chosen honorable mention All-OVC as EKU went 18-10. He led the league in steals. He was 10th in the conference in rebounding, even though he stood just 6'1". The Eastern Progress named him Male Athlete of the Year. Following his collegiate career, he played in the Helsinki, Finland Classic, earning Most Valuable Player honors. After graduating from Eastern in 1991 with a bachelor's degree in business administration, he served EKU as an admissions counselor for 3 years. He began his coaching career in the 94-95 season as a restricted earnings coach for Old Dominion in a season that saw the Monarchs win the Colonial Athletic Conference and a first-round victory over Villanova in the NCAA tournament. After that season, he was named associate head coach at Hampton University, a spot he held from 1995 to 2002, highlighted by one of the biggest upsets in NCAA history when Hampton beat Iowa State 58-57. He was then promoted to head coach at Hampton and served in that capacity from 2002 to 2006. He compiled an overall record of 65-57, was Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Coach of the Year in 2004-2005, and was chosen Most Outstanding Coach of the MEAC Tournament. From 2006 to 2014, he was the head coach at Winston-Salem State University, where he went 115-110. His best season with the Rams came in 2012-13 when he was 21-7 and ranked 7th in the nation, earning a second seed in the NCAA Division II tournament. It was the last 4 years that distinguished him as a premier head coach as he directed the Rams to a 79-35 record. His teams won at least 10 games in the Central Intercollegiate Athletic Conference each of those seasons and twice made NCAA Division II regional tournament appearances. April 8th of this year, he was named head coach of the University of Maryland Eastern Shore Hawks, taking his 177-165 head coaching record with him back to NCAA Division I and back to the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. He is joined today by members of his family, including his 2-year-old son, Bobby Lee Collins Jr., and several of his friends. By the way, this is our 9th induction class. Bobby will be the 100th member inducted into the Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, he wore number 23 as a colonel. Let's welcome Bobby Collins.
Thank you. Wow, I'm nervous. And I say that because I'm not used to talking in front of people. I'm usually coaching in front of people. I can coach in front of thousands and millions, but actually get up and talk in front of people, yeah, I'm a little nervous. So I shake a little bit, forgive that part, but hear my message. First, I want to say, to God I give the glory, and I give him the praise, and without this, none of this would be possible. And I got to say that, and you understand when I say this part, is why do I put God first in everything I do? Well, I have a little story about that and how I got into basketball. It defined me pretty much as where I am today. Well, I have 9 brothers and sisters. Both my mother and father were pastors of a church. And we went to church on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so when my mother and father went shopping, she bought us mostly clothes to go to church. So I didn't have very many clothes to hang out at the park and play sports. So one day I was in PE, and that day that I was in PE, I was in there with my church shoes on, they called me. They were picking at me, they used to laugh at me. And the time that I saw guys in there dunking a tennis ball. So I had my church shoes on, I went up and I dunked the tennis ball easily, boom. And that was easy, so they got a volleyball out. And I pulled the volleyball, I went back, I took a couple steps back, boom, and I dunked the volleyball. So they said, well, let me see if you can dunk this basketball because you dunked the volleyball fairly easy. So I backed up 2 steps, and I went and boom, and I dunked the basketball. And right when I dunked the basketball, Coach Capel came out, whom is the head coach at Philadelphia. Well, he was assistant coach at Philadelphia 76ers, has done very well as a coach. He came out, they said, who is that kid? He said, oh, that's Bobby Collins. He don't worry about him. And so I got the ball again, and I backed up. Took 2 more steps back. And I went up and I dunked the ball backwards. Boom! And he said, well, who was that kid again? I said, oh, that's Bobby Collins. He said, okay, well, let me go talk to him. So he went over and he talked to me. He said, hey, I want you to play sports for me next year. I said, I don't know if I can play because I play the drums in church, and my mom and dad is not going to let me miss church to go and play basketball. He said, okay, well, I'm going to go talk to your mother and father. So he got dressed up, brought his Bible over to my mother and father's house, and he walked and knocked on the door, and he said, Mr. and Mrs. Collins, I'd like to talk to you. He came in, he said, well, make a long story short, he said, I'd like Bobby to play basketball for me. And our mother and father said, okay, well, let's talk about this. And he said, well, I think he should play for me because he has a chance not just to play basketball, but a chance to go to college. And my mom and dad said, okay, well, I'll tell you what, let's do this first. Let's get down on our knees and let's pray. And so I was around the corner. When I looked around the corner, they had Coach Capel on his knees asking him to forgive him for his sins. So my mom and dad stood up from after they prayed with him and said that, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to allow Bobby to play if he do one thing, and that's if he keep God first in his life. And I've done that, and that's the reason why I am today. And I said that was a defining moment for me. You know, there's some people I recognize. First, let me recognize the most important person in this room. Greg, you're about to get me in trouble by not announcing Jessica Kern, my significant other, my better half, Jessica Kern. Please give her a hand. Y'all give me some points. Please stand, Jessica. Thank you, Greg. And my son, BJ, he's out. He was kind of fidgety, so he went with his friends and wanted to play. He didn't want to sit here with Dad. Also, I'd like to recognize President Benson. Thank you very much for what you've done for my alma mater. I see all the work, the great work you've done. Congratulations on that. And the athletic director, Mr. Benson, thank you for that. And to the Hall of Fame committee, thank you for inducting me today. This means the world to me. I'm extremely excited about it. I'm extremely humbled for this award. Thank you so much for that. Coach Good, he's not here today, but Coach Good was my college coach, and he was a great coach for me. Max Good was a great coach for me. Now, Max Good was a hard coach, and there was a lot of times I didn't know what my name was. He would call me those funny words. Bobby Collins, so where you supposed to be? I said, over there, coach. I don't know where I'm supposed to be, because he made me so nervous because of the things that he used to call me. But it made me go hard. It made me work hard, and it made me go a little bit harder. And I say all the words that he called me then prepared me, coach. He prepared me for being a coach for when all the people in the stand called me certain words. So it definitely prepared me. And so Coach Good definitely was a great coach for me. John Ferguson, how did I get from North Carolina to Richmond, Kentucky? Wow, what a story. I was at a basketball camp in Charlotte, North Carolina. I only played 2 years of high school basketball. And I went to a camp my senior year. And there were thousands of coaches at this camp. But Coach Ferguson, while I was there that day, and I played well, I played phenomenal. And that day, I forgot to tell the story. I have to tell this story because this is also a defining moment for me as well. When I was in the gym playing basketball that day, I had on the church shoes. But before I dunked the ball, my best friend, Lamont Goins, let me wear his shoes. And that's when I went and dunked the ball backwards that day. But that meant something to me. And I thank Lamont Goins for that, because he was a very good friend of mine. He's considered to be one of my best friends. Thank you, Lamont. But when I went to this camp, I had another brand new pair of shoes on. And that night, I played phenomenal. I was unbelievable. I was shooting jumpers too, Dr. Kaufman. I was shooting jumpers. I really played well. And that night, Coach Ferguson left the basketball camp and drove to my mother and father's house from Charlotte to Southern Pines, which was about 2 hours, and said, Mr. and Mrs. Collins, I want to offer your son a full scholarship to college. And my mom and dad said, we accept. And that's how I got to Eastern Kentucky. And I thank Coach Ferguson for that. Also the managers, the trainers, the SIDs, Carl Parks, you've been here forever too. Thank you so much. Greg, thank you so much for everything you've done. And without you, obviously that nickname Cat wouldn't have stuck, but thank you so much for that. I also have some very important people here today that was definitely a bridge for me in my time that I was here at Eastern Kentucky. And Dr. Weiss and Wayne Weiss, they were a family away from home. The things and the experience and the lessons and the knowledge that you taught me as a young man, it definitely helped mold me today. And I want to say thank you and I love you for that. Also, I have another important person here, Jennifer and Wes Kaufman. There's a little small story how Dr. Kaufman and I became friends. Again, it was one of those moments. Coach Good was fussing and cussing about us not going as hard, So it was a moment, there was this young man by the name of Vernon Evans. Vernon Evans was 6'8", from the mountains, about 240, 245. And Vernon said, you know what, Coach was cussing, he was going off so bad. Coach said, go harder. So I took a step back and I went up to dunk the ball, and boom, and I dunked the ball, but Vernon didn't move. And we were taking a charge drill. He stood there and said, I'm gonna take this. And I flipped over, boom, and broke my front tooth out. And it was about 8 o'clock that night in practice, and here's the thing. Dr. Kaufman goes to bed at 7 o'clock. And it was 8:30. So he actually got out of his bed to come back to fix my tooth at 8:30. I thank you for that. And I love you guys for the love that you gave me while I was here. Thank you very much. All right. Charlie Andrews, a very good friend of mine. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. We've been together for a long time. I want to talk about my team a little bit that I played with. We had a very, very talented team. And we had some guys that played hard, some guys that went on to play at the next level. I often keep in touch with those guys almost every year. We get together and we talk and we meet up and we have some profound moments. Just as of last week, I got a phone call from my backcourt mate. I know you guys are familiar with Jeff McGill. Jeff McGill was transferred from Wake Forest. He came in and played 2 years. He probably is the second or if not, the number one three-point shooter here at Eastern Kentucky. He was diagnosed with cancer a couple of weeks ago. So definitely keep him in your prayers as we go along. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention a couple of players that we've lost along the way. Tyrone Howard, who was 6'8", long arms that could really play, had a pretty successful career here. We lost him, and Randolph Taylor, who was another classmate who was 6'9", 230, that really had a phenomenal career here at Eastern Kentucky. I just want to bring it to your attention, who they were. Coach Neubauer, you've done a fabulous job, man. I'm telling you, I was so proud to watch you guys last year on TV. I was in the front row just cheering, and congratulations on what you've done, and I know there's good things to come after this year. Again, I got to say, Eastern Kentucky has molded me, and the experiences that I've had here is priceless. A lot of people say if they had it to do all over again, they would do it totally different. I did it right the first time. Thank you, Eastern Kentucky, for what you've done for me. You know, a lot of times that I talk about to my team, I talk about their why. What's your why? Why do you do what you do? What motivates you? What inspires you? When times get tough, what pushes you? I remember one time I felt like I was down and out and there was no tomorrow, and I was upset at Coach Good because I just felt like he kept staying on me and I'm giving him all I got. And I went to this one particular person, Dr. Kaufman, and he told me, quit feeling sorry for myself. Get up and fight. Think about why you're doing this. You love this game. If you love this game, you go play it to your best ability. Don't ever give up. You keep fighting, and I didn't like what he said at the time, but when I walked away and I thought about it, I went on, and I want to thank you again for that because I'll never forget that conversation. So also, before I leave, I got to say this. You know, Coach Good. Coach Good used to say, Bobby Collins, there's a big man inside you just waiting to bust out. And I want to tell him today, here he is. He got that right. He got that right. I know I don't look like a basketball player, but Roy Kidd used to ask me, Bobby, come out and play football. Come out and play football. He saw that big man too. But again, I just want to say thank you to the EKU alums, and thank you to the inductees. I mean, congratulations to you as well. Thank you, Eastern Kentucky University. Thank you, boosters and alum. Thank you for everything you have done. I just want to say thank you again, and go Colonels.
In the summer following her freshman year, she represented the United States through people-to-people sports in Australia, winning a silver medal. She put together a stellar first-team All-OVC sophomore year, leading the OVC in rebounding and 9th in the NCAA at 11.5 rebounds a game. She scored in double digits in 22 games. She set an EKU single-game record that year with 26 rebounds against Tennessee State, and finished just 1 rebound shy of the EKU single season rebound mark with 309. The Lady Colonels excelled her junior year when they went 24-6 and ran off a stretch of 20 wins in 21 games, winning their first ever outright OVC title. Doss did her part to help the Eastern cause that season by averaging 12.5 points and was named second team All-OVC. Eastern won the conference regular season and league tournament as Doss was named MVP of the tournament. EKU made its first ever trip to the NCAA tournament, playing Georgia in Athens. She closed out her playing career in 1997-98 as Eastern went 20-8 and won the OVC again with a 15-3 mark. She was named first team All-OVC, ranking second in the conference in rebounding and in field goal percentage while scoring 14.6 points per contest. She ranked second on Eastern's career list in rebounds at 1,026 and 12th in scoring with 1,378 points. She holds the EKU record for double-doubles with 38, offensive rebounds with 413, and is second in career field goal percentage at 51.3%. She is one of only 2 Lady Colonels to ever record more than 1,000 career points and 1,000 career rebounds. Graduating from Eastern in May of 1998 with her degree in broadcast journalism, she later received her master's degree in sports administration from EKU. Doss began her coaching career in 2002-2003 at Eastern, where she served as an assistant coach for 4 seasons. Since leaving EKU, she has completed a 16-year coaching career, making stops at James Madison, Southern Polytech State, Bruton Parker, Austin Peay, and North Carolina A&T. Joined today by her family and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, she wore number 32 for the Lady Colonels, Lophelia Doss.
Like Bobby, I'm nervous as well. I just know that I'm deeply humbled and blessed beyond measure, to be here. The funny thing is, a couple of months ago, I was telling my mom, about the induction, and I said, I need to write my speech. And she was like, you don't need to write a speech. She was like, just speak from the heart. You're good at that. Just say what you need to say. And I felt empowered. I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm gonna go up there and I'm just gonna start talking and see what comes out. So I'm talking to her yesterday and she said, so do you have your speech written? Are you ready? And I was like, you told me not to write a speech. And she was like, I couldn't just get up there and talk, in front of some people. So, suffice it to say, my stomach, got a little more, tore up, and I was nervous because I was like, I didn't write anything down. So just know that I'm being led by the Spirit as I stand before you. All of us have a purpose and a calling on our lives. And a lot of times, we'll fight it, or, we aren't so willing to, walk into it and accept it. And there are times where you feel like you're giving everything that you have and it's not enough. And in April, I was having one of those days of feeling that way. As Greg said, I have been a college coach for the past 12 years. And, it's very demanding, and, you feel like you're giving everything that you have, and, you just don't feel good enough. And my phone rang, and it was an 859 number. And I was like, who is this calling me? I was like, I'm not going to answer because I don't know who it is. So I let it go to voicemail, and I was going to see if they were going to leave a message. And they left a message. So I listened to the message, and it was Carl Park. And he was like, with his country accent, he was like, Lophelia, I'm trying to reach Lophelia Doss, and he was saying, I wanted to let her know that she's been elected to go into the 2014 Eastern Kentucky Hall of Fame, and I'm not a crier, and I found myself just breaking, at that moment. A a lot of people don't know, but I wasn't going to play college ball. My senior year, I was done with basketball. I just felt like it was all about politics. People will be on you one day, forget about you the next day. And so I had applied to another school, had been accepted. I won't name that school, but just know that their mascot is a cardinal. And, I had a roommate, and it was never my desire to, being honest, it was never my desire to go to the same institution as either one of my siblings. And my sister was going to be my roommate. Like I said, everything was in order. I was accepted, just done. And I ended up getting a phone call from Sheila Simmons, and she was calling from Eastern Kentucky, and she said, we want you to come up for a visit, and she did her whole little spiel. And, I asked her, where did she, thank you. I asked, how did she hear about me? And, I was making known to her that I was pretty much finished with basketball as well. And the funny part is, they had never, ever seen me play. They had gone to a state tournament, and someone, I guess they were desperate. And someone had told them about me. So she gave me a call, and, it was just, stepping out on faith, to call me. And I was like, I'll come up to your school. And my brother was actually already attending the university, but they didn't put two and two together, and they had no idea that we were related or that my brother even went to the school, which was even better. So, I was like, I'll come up for a visit, because, I wanted to make a definite decision that I knew, that I was done, or, proving a point, so to speak. And I knew I wanted to major in communication, so I felt like as if I was taking control, and I was like, look, I want to major in communications. You need to set a meeting up with someone from the department for me to talk to, and she was like, we'll do all that. So, I come up, and there was nothing spectacular that I saw. It was like around May, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't meet very many of the players. They pointed out from a distance a couple of them. It wasn't like, they took me out and I had a good time. I really didn't even hang with the players. So, I go back home, and I was like, I'm not going to school. I'm not going to the same school as my brother. And it kept coming to my mind for some reason. I just kept on thinking, okay, Eastern. And I was like, why is this school coming to my mind? I've already been accepted to this other university, and I know I don't want to play, and they haven't seen me play, because when I came on the visit and I met with the head coach, Coach Inman, he offered me a 4-year scholarship. So, with that, I'm still shocked. And as I said, I go home, and, like for a week, the school just keeps coming to my mind. And Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. So the next week, I accepted a scholarship to attend Eastern Kentucky University. And by far, it wasn't easy. I hated my freshman year. A lot of the teammates, we didn't get along, but we were competitors. And it was just the type of spirit with the team that no one was going to allow the next person not to give everything that they have. And I'm grateful for that. And in that, it brought us together. And there wasn't anything that we said that we wanted to do that we didn't do. And they brought out the best in me. I put everything that I had on the court, in the classroom, as a person. It was a major growing experience for me here at this university. And I stand before you exactly 20 years later, and I am part of the 9th class, 2014 EKU Hall of Fame class for this university. So, for me, I just feel like that's remarkable for someone who, didn't want to play a sport, but finally accepted the calling and the purpose on her life. I want to thank, President Benson, for what you're doing. Mr. Sandy, you've been great. My teammates, friends, Coach Miller, my family, my mother for always being the loudest one in the stands, even at the time, I used to think it was embarrassing, but, when I got to college, you missed it. I yearned for it, so I definitely appreciate that. Thomas for keeping me in shape, my brother and sister for being my biggest cheerleaders, and, the rest of my family, for, just always being there in spirit, or in person. You know, alumni, you know, I'm sure I could go down the list as far as thanking people. But as I said when I first started this, know that I'm deeply humbled and I'm blessed and I feel highly favored. So thank you, and thank you.
Our third inductee today was a four-year starter at left guard on the Colonel's offensive line, playing in 48 consecutive games from 1992 to 1995, after being redshirted his first season on campus. James Hand opened holes for All-American tailback Marcus Thomas as Eastern went 9-3, participated in the 1AA playoffs, and finished 12th in the final poll. EKU led the league in rushing with 2,738 yards, finishing fourth in total offense and second in scoring. As a sophomore, Hand continued to help open those holes for the EKU running attack that featured two 1,000-yard rushers, including tailback Leon Brown, who led the league in rushing at 1,046 yards. EKU turned in a perfect conference record that year at 8-0, and advanced to the 1AA playoffs, where the Colonels lost a heartbreaker at Georgia Southern 14-12. Eastern rushed for 3,512 yards in 1993, ranking second in the OVC in rushing, total offense, and scoring. Hand was rewarded with his first of three first-team All-OVC awards, and as a junior, Eastern won its second straight league title. It defeated Boston University in the first round of the playoffs, before losing in the last minute 18-15 at Youngstown State, the eventual national champions. Hand was named first-team All-American as Eastern finished fifth in the final poll. The 95 season was another 3,000-yard rushing year for the Colonels offense, as Hand received his second of three team offensive line MVP awards. In 1995, his senior season, Hand served as offensive co-captain, and he was a three-outlet choice for All-American honors as Eastern finished 10th in the final 1AA poll and made its 16th playoff appearance in the past 17 years. Joined today by family and friends, ladies and gentlemen, he wore number 63 as a Colonel, James Hand.
You'll have to excuse me. I'm having way too much fun today. So, I'm truly blessed to be here today and thank Carl Parks and the committee for this tremendous honor. It is great to be here this weekend. Through social media, I've been able to see the enhancements to the program over the past couple of days, as well as the football team again 5-0, moving up in the rankings. Even though I'm such a fan, I haven't been able to enjoy it as much because I keep hearing this voice in my head. They're doing really well, but I think back to what Coach Kidd would always tell us, whether we were 2, 6, 8, 16, don't worry about the rankings, just go out and win. The rankings will take care of themselves. So I haven't been able to enjoy it because I keep hearing it over and over and over in my head. First and foremost, I want to thank the Lord for everything that He's done for me in life. And I don't just say that as cliche. My number one testimony to that, I reflect back to 1992. After my redshirt freshman year, I sprained my knee in 2-a-day practices. Over the next couple of days, I didn't practice as far as contact. But yet and still, I go down to Western and start that first game against Western. Through the grace of God, over the next 4 years, 48 consecutive games, I was never hurt nor injured during my time here at Eastern. As an athlete, there is no greater blessing to be bestowed upon you than to play injury-free. I do not take that for granted whatsoever. Especially when you play down in those trenches to go that many years and to get through practice and never be hurt. Don't get me wrong, I had my bumps and bruises, and I think a little bit of that is luck, but I truly give God all the glory. Of course, I want to thank my family who's here today. A little bit about myself. From a family of 7, I have 4 older sisters, and I've always stated that I was raised by 5 mothers and a very strict father. Today, that trip's a little different to Richmond because, unfortunately, there's only 4 of us left, but yet and still, they're here to support the baby, or as I say, the baby of the family. As well as my wife. Of course, she's in my Hall of Fame because she's presented me with Jalen and Serenity. Probably should have wrote that down. What? 13 years now. Going on 13 years. We met here at Eastern, and we're going into our 13th year now. Physically, I stand on stage alone, but in my heart, I think about all the linemen that I played with. They're on stage with me today. You cannot be successful on the offensive line without knowing what the guys to the left of you and right of you are doing as well. Just to tell you a little bit about my story, I'll go back to my recruiting trip. And that weekend, on their recruiting trip, they came to pick me up that Friday evening, the graduate assistant for that weekend. It was going to be my first trip to Richmond. On that recruiting trip, when the graduate assistant got to my house, he said, "I don't want to scare you, but we have to pick up Miss Kidd. She's visiting her daughter in Louisville, and she's going to ride back to Eastern with us." So we go pick up Miss Kidd, and for the next hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, you best believe she talked the entire way. There was a couple of times she would tap me on my shoulder and apologize for talking so much, but it truly was a great blessing because it was my first introduction to the program for the most part, because I didn't know too much about the program itself. When we got to Richmond, we got off of that first exit, and recruits, we were going to meet Coach Kidd at the steakhouse. Well, we went to the wrong steakhouse. Jumped back on the interstate, went down to the next exit, and Miss Kidd tapped me on the shoulder. She said, "Well, that's the end of the weekend. You saw everything that Richmond has to offer." At the time, I did not know how true that was. And my oh my, has the campus come so far. And believe it or not, my wife would tell me, I actually passed up exit 87 last night. Those cell phones will get you every time. I was very, very happy and pleased because Miss Kidd would always say that I was her first recruit. But over the next couple of years, I heard her tell some of my teammates the same story. I just chalked it up that Coach Kidd and that whole household, they understand the recruiting process. On that trip, I had that weekend, I met Joe Smith, who was from Florida, as well as Jason Dunn, who's from right here in Kentucky. Actually, ironically, Jason, I met him the week before down at Western. We just met, hold on a second. That's the second time I mentioned Western today. I hear you, Coach. Tell her. They don't like us and we don't like them. How many times did I hear that? But I met Joe and Jason that weekend. And as I said, the weekend before, me and Jason just met at Western. But our weekend at Eastern, we all spent the whole weekend together, right there in the dorm with the other players. We played basketball the whole weekend. To this day, 20 plus years later, I still have those same relationships today. Of course, once I got to campus with Coach Kidd, we definitely got off to a very rough start. Day one, I didn't pass the card. Our conditioning program. 20 plus years later, I can still hear Coach Kidd yelling at me, "Son, do you think you're still at Butler High School?" And let me be perfectly clear, those are not the only words that Coach Kidd uttered to me on that day. But I would notice over the next couple of years, I'm not the only one. I would always make it after that, but he always kept his eye on me as far as conditioning goes. I've been thanking Coach Kidd since 1991, and today is no different. But I've come to realize that people really don't want to hear us thank Coach Kidd. They want to know the stories. What is it that made Coach Kidd such a great coach? And when people ask me, I always go back to the one saying that he told us over and over and over and over. If you do the little things, the big things will take care of themselves. We heard it over and over and over. And for the most part, it was just each and every day we worked on the fundamentals of the game. Running, blocking, passing, catching, consistently, and as well as our conditioning, over and over and over again. But I guess technically, since I didn't pass the car, it wasn't that we got off to a bad start. I guess I got off to a bad start, right, Coach? As a student, being on campus, we know it prepares you for adulthood, but make no mistake about it, Coach Kidd's program did as well. Whether it was the 2-a-days, of course, my senior year, we had 3-a-days, the mandatory breakfast checks at 7 a.m. I think, what was it, Coach? We can't make you go to class, but we can make sure we get you up to go to class. Study table, and of course, with so many of his sayings, my own personal favorite was, especially when grades came out. Coach Kidd would always, of course, rip into the team, make sure we get our grades up. But he always reminded us, remember, we brought you here for an education, not to play football. I believed that in the beginning, but as I got older, us young folks, we believe that. The games were fun. Practice was extremely tough. I mean, we really got out to one another each and every day. The competition was at a very, very high level, especially the egos that we had on the team. Well, I guess most people always said we were cocky and conceited, and I always thought that about my teammates as well. Never me, of course. But we got out of it each and every day. The offense, we wore maroon. The defense wore white. And each and every day, the offense, of course, would whip up on the defense. We were just following Coach Blankenship's rule. Just line up and blow their nose for him. How many times I heard Coach Blankenship say that? I'm surprised you're going to let me get away with that, right? Yeah. Guess it's my day. Just poking fun at my teammate, last year's inductee, Tony McCombs, who played on defense, that's all. But if you're not familiar with football and you came to one of our practices, I guarantee you, you would think it was literally two different teams out there. Because sometimes it looked like we absolutely hated each other. But I tell you, it was so much fun. Before I got to Eastern, I had a handful of people tell me, once you get down to Richmond, make sure that you get your butt in somebody's church. You go visit around, find you a church to get into. I didn't have that opportunity to visit a couple of churches. I don't remember how it happened, but I just remember when we first got here, Joe Smith and myself, someone said there's a church down there on the hill, First Baptist, the home of Reverend Bly. And we went down to First Baptist, and as the months would go on, of course, another teammate, Carlos Timmons, would join us. And then next year, Sheldon Walker would join us. And Reverend Bly would nickname us the Crew. And he also made sure that everyone knew that even though we missed Sunday here and there, we always make sure to be there on the Sundays that the church had dinner. They would always send us back to the dorm with a meal, as well as, of course, when we ate there. But they not only opened up the doors of the church to us, but they also opened up their homes, such as Miss Hughley and the Harris family, whether it was Easter Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, Thanksgiving Day, or just you all are more than welcome to join us. To this day, once again, 20 plus years later, Reverend Bly is still in our lives today. And I truly thank First Baptist for everything that they've done for the Crew as well. I would love to stand here and thank so many of my teammates that I had the opportunity to play with, but we would be here all day. But I definitely have to mention my roommate those last 2 years, Diallo Burks. In that dorm room, someone who literally just had me laughing each and every day. It was so much fun. And since I can't stand here and talk about each and every one of my teammates in detail, to all those great guys, I truly thank you all. And of course, I stand here thinking about the ones that were so productive in the program, but yet don't get very many honors. We had such great talent throughout the years. And saying thank you to those guys is simply not enough. So I just take a couple of words from a song that we all know and love, yet has been torn up to pieces over the years. Oh, how I would love to wander back just to be with those I love. Joy my heart would overfill. Thank you.
Our next inductee was a 3-year letter winner at quarterback, highlighted by leading the Colonels to their first 1AA national championship in 1979. As a sophomore, Bill Hughes, a member of the Lancaster, Ohio Athletics Hall of Fame, was instrumental in directing Eastern to a huge comeback victory over East Tennessee State, 38-34, as he provided backup that season for all OVC quarterback and EKU Athletics Hall of Fame member Ernie House. As a junior in 1978, Hughes took over as starting quarterback and was chosen OVC Player of the Week twice, leading Eastern to an 8-2 record. That season, Eastern led the league in total offense and points scored, as Hughes tied an OVC single-game record for accuracy when he hit 12 of 15 passes against Dayton. While serving as offensive co-captain that year, he finished 5th in the league in total offense and in passing offense. His senior year, his most memorable, as he led EKU to an 11-2 record and secured the university's first national football title. Again, serving as offensive co-captain, he threw for 1,000 yards and 7 TDs while rushing for 264 yards and 4 more scores. One of his top gains his senior year was in the 8-6 win over arch-rival Western Kentucky at Roy Kidd Stadium before a record crowd of 25,300. Hughes was a part of all 8 of those Eastern points that afternoon when he scored a rushing touchdown and hit tight end Chris Curtis for the game-winning 2-point conversion. Other notable games in '79 were a 226-yard 3-TD pass day and a 35-10 win over Austin Peay, and a 154-yard rushing, 150-yard passing, 50-yard rushing game in a 30-7 win over Morehead State. For his efforts, Hughes was chosen second-team All-OVC and the Colonels' co-MVP on offense. He was selected as Real Estate Student of the Year and Insurance Student of the Year at EKU for 1979-80. And since graduating in 1980, he has had a 25-plus year career with ARC International, the world's largest producer of tabletop glassware. He has been the all-time sales leader for that company and was chosen Salesperson of the Year on numerous occasions. He recently celebrated his 26th anniversary to his wife, Cheryl. Their son, Alex, recently completed a successful 3-year baseball career here at EKU, graduating in 2013. Joined today by his family and former EKU teammates. Ladies and gentlemen, he wore number 15 as a Colonel, and he was a national champion. Number 15, Bill Hughes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Tell you what, Greg, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that. I want to thank the Hall of Fame committee for inducting me into an outstanding group of men and women. It's truly an honor, and congratulations to my fellow inductees today. So I know you're as proud as I am. being a tremendous honor, something that I'm going to treasure and will remember the rest of my life. And there's no one person that gets here by themselves. It takes the support of other individuals, the guidance, family, friends, and I'm no different than anyone else. For me, it started with my mom and dad and family. It was their support and guidance, especially at an early age. It's really formed me and helped me make the man that I am today. My dad probably the proudest guy in the world, or he would be if he was here today. But I'm sure he's overlooking us, and he's very proud. I know my mother is. She's the proudest of me. The reason I know that, she's in a nursing home back in Ohio, and she told me this week how proud she is of her son. So that's fantastic. My sisters, Karen and Lisa, and husband Mark and Lindsay, niece, they're here today for supporting myself. An interesting fact: my father, who attended every home game in 1978, 1979, he never saw the Colonels lose. He attended a lot of the away games, but there were 4 games that he didn't attend on the road, and Coach Kidd, those are the 4 that we lost. So we needed him to attend more away games. So anyway, that was kind of fun. It all started. I mentioned earlier that we can't do it by ourselves. And for me, once I figured out that football was going to be a passion of mine and something I really wanted to pursue. Had a couple coaches back in Lancaster, Ohio, that took an interest in me. John Young, he saw that I had an interest, and it's something that he probably figured I had a little bit of talent. So he took me under his wing, and he showed me how to, how to work hard and some of the key things to work on as a quarterback. So I thank him for the attention that he gave me at an early age. And as I got in high school, Earl Jones, the retired head coach, he called down here at Eastern, spoke with Coach Kidd, and was able to work out a scholarship for me. So I thank him. He was a big support of myself. When I became one of Coach Kidd's players, like James mentioned, that Coach always told us, do the little things, the big things are going to take care of themselves, and that stuck with me. And it's something I use every day. You don't want to do the little things, but I tell you what, they end up paying for themselves. And the other thing that he told us, he said, hey, I know his mother passed away in November of '78, and right before, I think it was the only game Coach ever missed, and right before he left, he said, guys, he said, tell the people that you love them every chance you get. And that stuck with me, and I told my mom and dad I loved them, but from that day forward, I make a special effort to do that, and it's a wonderful thing. So when I look back on our '79 championship team, we're just that, a team, a family. We didn't have any superstars. We had a lot of talented individuals, and some went on to the next level, but mentally there was no superstars. We played as a team. And when something went wrong, we worked it out as a team too. We didn't have the coaches involved, and that's what really made us end up winning it all in '79. So it was phenomenal. Being down here for the years that I attended Eastern, there were several tools that I had learned how to battle, to really pick it up a little bit. When I was at a younger age, that wasn't quite that way. How to find courage, endurance, find the strength that we all need, work hard, but utmost hope and faith. And I've learned those in the last several years, that we definitely need the hope and faith. So I've been a successful sales manager, same company, for over 20-some years. And I've got a lot of people that we work together and report to me, but we use those same kind of philosophies. and there's no one that's better, no one higher or lower than the other person, and we're all equal when it comes to our goals and achieving, you know, what we're assigned to do. My wife Cheryl, 26 years, been phenomenal. We're a team together. We walk side by side in this journey, and you know, I love you, and don't know what I'd do without you. And then we have one son, Alex. And like I said, he was able to attend Eastern Kentucky University and play baseball. And him and his teammates had success. They won an OVC championship, so that was phenomenal. Those years, I treasure those, Alex. And then as far as being a team, the lifelong relationships that were formed from the people that I met down here at Eastern. Corky Prater, his college roommate. Rick Sang, another college roommate. Eddie Lasky. I mean, these guys are phenomenal. Eddie, he stood up and had a little challenge. You had to go over in Europe this year, and Eddie stood up and he traveled 7,000 miles with me and took care of me on that journey. So I appreciate that, and I love you for that, Eddie. So it's these lifelong skills and lifelong experiences that's really helped form me, and I accept this honor, and I thank everybody very much. Thank you.
Our next inductee was a four-year starter for Coach Jerry Polvino's EKU volleyball team from 1988 to 1991. Jennifer James Riekert was named to the All-OVC freshman team, second team All-OVC as a sophomore, and first team All-OVC as both a junior and senior. In her first season in 1988, she helped lead Eastern to the OVC Tournament Championship, finishing second on the team in kills with 278, and leading EKU in block assists with 57. Her top match game when she collected 10 kills versus defending NCAA champion Texas. In 1989, she was invited as an alternate to play in the U.S. Olympic Sports Festival. As a junior, she led Eastern in attacks with 1,438 and kills with 585. She led the Colonels to the OVC regular season and tournament championships. Her senior season in 1991, she was chosen OVC Player of the Year. She had 4 straight games that year with more than 30 kills. During her 4 years at Eastern, the Colonels recorded 41 wins with just 9 losses against OVC teams, winning 78 games overall. She left Eastern with school records for career kills and single-season marks for kills and total attacks. Following her senior year, she was invited to the Colorado Springs Olympic Training Center and was selected as first alternate to compete that season in the Barcelona Olympic Games. She recently completed her 20th season in the coaching profession and is currently the head volleyball coach at Eastern York High School in York, Pennsylvania, where she was named Coach of the Year in 2010. Joined today by her family and friends, ladies and gentlemen, she wore number 15 as a Colonel, Jennifer James Riekert.
Hello. I have a speech actually written, so I'm not quite as fluent as everybody else, so bear with me. When I first received the voicemail message from Mr. Park that I was being inducted in the Hall of Fame last year, my first reaction was just kind of smile, because I haven't heard that Southern accent in 20 plus years. So, of course, I was really thrilled then to be given such an amazing honor. Growing up in a small town in Pennsylvania, I was very close to my friends and family. So when I was offered the full scholarship to attend Eastern way back in 1988, I was excited and nervous about being so far away from my hometown. I didn't know what to expect. From the time I stepped foot on this campus in August of '88, I felt a serious sense of family and support that I had left back home in PA. So of course I was a little homesick, however, but with the sense of belonging and support that I received from my teammates and my coaching staff, I adjusted and immediately fell in love with the campus and the atmosphere of the school. I wouldn't have changed my decision to continue my education and volleyball career in Richmond for anything. The memories that I have of the time spent on this campus are ones that I will cherish forever. One thing that I have to mention, when I saw Coach Kidd come in, I was beyond excited because he, of course, is a god down here. And in all my 4 years of playing, one of the big highlights was when Coach Kidd came to one of my matches my senior year. I thought that was just the neatest thing. I was like, oh my gosh. I was more nervous about that than anything, which speaks to to where he's at. My teammates and I went through a lot of hardships and victories, both on and off the court. But thank goodness, I don't like to talk a whole lot about social media, but because of that, I've been able to reconnect with all my teammates over the years, so that's been really nice. When we talk, the flood of memories come back, and of course, I smile. After graduation, I moved back home to Pennsylvania, met my husband, and started my family. My husband and I just celebrated our 18th year anniversary. Life goes on, of course. You know, we have 2 children. Lauren's a senior, and my son Nolan is in 8th grade. Life moves on, but the memories I have from Eastern stuck with me throughout the last 20 years. Dr. Paul Vino, Stuart Sherman, Ernie Gilbert, and the rest of my coaching staff played a huge role in what I've accomplished while at EKU. The things I learned from them, I carry with me even now during my many years of coaching. They always pushed me to do the best I could, both on and off the court, even when I was tired and didn't feel like giving it my all. I appreciate their desire to make me the best player I could possibly be. After 4 years of playing, I walked away knowing I gave it my all and did the best I could, and I have them to thank for that. I'd like to thank my family, my niece, my in-laws, my brother, for agreeing to make the long drive down from PA. We drove yesterday 8.5 hours in one big 15-passenger van. We all loaded up. It was a little crowded, but we did it, and it was a lot of fun. I'd like to thank my parents and my brother for always being my biggest support for me when I needed them. Over the last 20-plus years, my dad would always kind of remind me here and there that, you still hold the records down there. You still hold the records down there. So it's kind of cool to have. He's obviously very proud of me. My brother didn't hesitate when we got the news that I was being inducted. He absolutely said he's going to come down, and like I said, he agreed to come down as well, and I really appreciate that. I'd like to send a special thanks to my husband, Kirk, of course, and my children, Lauren and Nolan, for sharing this experience with me. You guys are everything to me, so it means the world that you're here. My daughter's a senior in high school, and she's recently accepted a full scholarship to play volleyball at Georgia Southern University. And my hope is that she experiences the same feeling of comfort and support and love that I have here at Richmond, and hopefully she'll get in Georgia. I'm very proud of both of you guys. Sorry. Lastly, I'd just like to thank Chris Brown and Carl Park for nominating me for this year's Hall of Fame class. It's such an honor to be up here, and to be back on this campus is unbelievable. I mean, I left here in '93, and just to see how much I was like, that wasn't here when I was here. I mean, just everything is just, I mean, where I used to play my freshman and sophomore year is now a Starbucks. Like, there's my old gym. No, it's a Starbucks. So that was different. But it's just so cool to be down here, and I really am honored and appreciative of everything and everybody's support. Being at the match last night was really cool. Being recognized was just kind of a cool thing for my dad to walk out. He even wore, this is embarrassing, he had an EKU Parents' Day 1991 t-shirt that was pretty much transparent, and you could see, but he's like, we're going to go on the floor. I'm like, you're going to be on the floor with me. So we walked out, and it was kind of, I was proud, but it was a little embarrassing because he was sort of see-through. But it's kind of cool. So, but again, I thank you guys and everybody for everything, and congratulations to my fellow inductees. Thank you.
Our next inductee was a 4-year letter winner in track and cross country for Coach Rick Erdman's EKU team from 1994 to 1999. Jamie King O'Shea was the Ohio Valley Conference Women's Indoor Track Athlete of the Year in both 1997 and 1998, and duplicated that honor both seasons as OVC Women's Outdoor Track Athlete of the Year. She was also OVC Female Cross Country Athlete of the Year in 1997 and was a four-time NCAA Track All-American. King O'Shea was a four-time conference champion in the indoor mile run and also won the OVC Indoor 800 meters and the Indoor 3,000 meters in '98. She was also the OVC Outdoor Champion in the 800 meters and a four-time champion in the 1,500 meter run and twice took the Outdoor 300 meter run as well. She proved time after time during her career that she could excel at any distance from the 400 meter dash to the 5,000 meter run. She ran the second fastest indoor 800 meter as a freshman, also had the fourth best indoor mile run in 1995. In '96, she missed the outdoor season with an injury, but then came back strong to set a school record in the 800 meter outdoor run. As a junior, she finished 8th in the 1998 NCAA Outdoor Championship in the 15,000 meters and had the fastest time from the heats that year. In 1997, she broke the school record in the outdoor 800 meters with a time of 2 minutes 6 seconds .19, finishing 5th at the prestigious Drake Relay Special Invitational. She finished 10th at the 97 NCAA meet in the 1500 meters, and that gave her All-American status. King O'Shea also received NCAA Division I All-American recognition in '97 in the 800 meter run. She was also a member of Eastern's record-setting sprint medley and distance medley relay teams, and she holds EKU records in the indoor 800 meter run with a time of 2:08.21 and the indoor mile run with a time of 4 minutes 42 seconds .9. Joined today by her husband Ken and their children, ladies and gentlemen, Jamie King O'Shea.
Wow. Like Jennifer, I have my speech wrote. I have a couple of very special people that I really need to thank today. But before I do that, I want to say what an incredible honor this is for me. To truly do something that I love to do and get recognized for it is really an amazing and humbling thing. I consider myself very fortunate to have been able to develop as an athlete and as a person on this beautiful campus. And I'm lucky to call Richmond my home now and still get to run on many of my old training routes. It's very quiet in here. I want to thank Coach Rick Erdman and Coach Tim Moore for giving me the chance to become part of the Eastern Colonels. Coach Erdman never lost his faith in me through the injuries, and even when I was full of doubt, he provided me with every opportunity I needed to succeed. He surrounded me with the most amazing teammates, and I was challenged and motivated every day to become better. It was the support that allowed me to grow as an athlete, and it was my respect for them that taught me to be accountable for every outcome, whether it was good or bad. I want to thank my parents for all the sacrifices they made over the years so I could pursue my dreams of running in college, for driving me around the country to races and camps, for standing out in the rain, the snow, the sun, holding my gear at meets. But most of all, I want to thank my parents for the values of hard work and honor that they instilled in me. I love you guys. Finally, I want to thank the selection committee for finding me worthy. Congratulations to all the other nominees. I'm honored to be inducted with all of you, and I'm proud to be standing in front of you all today, and even more proud to consider myself a colonel still. Thank you all so much.
Our next inductee was a valuable member of the Eastern Athletics Department for 28 years. serving the university as an assistant football coach, head football coach, athletics director, and men's golf coach from a time span of 1947 through 1974. After a distinguished career as a player at the University of Nebraska, where he was a first-team All-American, Glenn Presnell started all three of his playing years, by the way, from 1925 to 1927 at single wing halfback, I should say, quarterback, and of course they played both ways back then, middle safety. One of the highlights of his sophomore season at Nebraska was leading the Cornhuskers to a 14-0 victory over an Illinois team that featured the Galloping Ghost, Red Grange. As one newspaper writer said, all the galloping was done by Presnell that day. As a senior for Nebraska, he gained All-American recognition for leading the nation in total yards gained. He played in the East-West Shrine Game, and from 1928 to 1930, he then began his professional career by serving as player coach for the Ironton Tanks. In 1930, he led the Tanks to upset wins over the New York Giants and the Chicago Bears. And the victory over the Giants included a 29-yard punt return that took the ball to the Giants' 27-yard line with just 3 seconds remaining. And then on the last play of the game, as the clock hit 0, Presnell eluded Giants defenders and threw a touchdown pass. That tied the game at 12, and then he finished the one-man demolition of the Giants by kicking the winning extra point in the 13-12 victory. Presnell called this win the biggest thrill of my career. In the 26-13 win over the Bears, Presnell again got the better of Grange as he raced 88 yards for a touchdown, prompting legendary sports writer Grantland Rice to pronounce Presnell is better than Grange. The Ironton franchise folded, and then he played the next 3 seasons for the Portsmouth Spartans. He led the league in total offense in 1933, the inaugural season of the NFL, and set the NFL single-season record with 64 points. He was chosen to the All-NFL team. After the 33 season, the Great Depression claimed another small-town team, and Detroit bought the Spartans for $7,850. In his first year of existence, Detroit owner Dick Richards called Glenn and his wife Liz into his office, and he asked them to pick the team's colors. And they chose Honolulu blue and silver, and those colors have remained the Lions colors for the past 80 seasons. Also in his first season with the Lions, Presnell scored the game's only points in a 3-0 win over Green Bay, kicking a league record 54-yard field goal, a mark that stood in the NFL for 19 years. In 1935, Presnell quarterbacked the Lions to the NFL championship. His 9-year pro career ended the next year as he finished with more than 2,500 yards rushing, 3,000 passing, and he accumulated 35 touchdowns. He began his collegiate career in 1937 by serving as an assistant coach at Kansas before returning to Nebraska as backfield coach from 1938 to 1941. In 1942, he was head coach of Nebraska before serving 3 years in the U.S. Navy during the war. He went back to Nebraska in 1946 as backfield coach before beginning his career at Eastern in 1947. He began here as the backfield coach under then head coach Tom Samuels. He was in that position for 7 years. He was then named head coach at Eastern in 1954. His first season was his best as the Maroons. They went 8-1-1 that year, compiled a perfect 5-0 mark in the OVC, and captured the school's first conference football title. The 54 team was invited to Orlando, Florida, where it played Omaha in the Tangerine Bowl, losing 7-6. In the 10 seasons as Eastern head coach, the Maroons collected 42 wins and added the 62 league title to the 54 OVC crown. Following his exit from head coach in 1963, Presnell was Eastern's athletics director. And that occurred, he was athletics director through 1971. He still coached the men's golf team at the same time, a position he held from 1957 to 1974. Representing Presnell today are several members of his immediate family and some of his former players. We would ask that his son Danny please come forward at this time to accept the Hall of Fame award for Glenn Presnell.
Of course, I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to speak for my dad. You'll probably find out I'm not much of a speaker in probably the first 30 seconds, but I'll do the best I can. I've tried to make some notes, and I've been thinking about this thing for quite a while, ever since Carl told me that this was going to happen. And of course, as I've been thinking all of the different things, of course, a lot of the things that have gone on with my dad, and when all the times he talked, and of course he lived to the age of 99, and so he had a long, full season. But I've got some things I'll try to present to you. Don't know how well I'll get them all out, but I'll do the best I can to try to tell you some things about him. A lot of things that I do know about him that I'm not going to take a lot of time to tell. Greg did an excellent job telling a lot of the background history of my dad. He had a lot of, I never did get a chance to see him play, but I've heard, an awful lot from former players and things like that. One thing I will remember that my mother used to say that he could go into any hotel in the United States, sit there for 15 minutes, and somebody would come in that he knew and would stop and talk to him. So I mean, it was kind of an unusual person to have that type of reputation. Okay, let me try to stumble through here. Let me start by thanking each member and each person for striving hard to bring this day together. My family, as well as myself, appreciate the depth all of you have done, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for the honor you have given to my dad. He would really appreciate being here himself, I know. Of course, Coach Kidd knows him very well, and that. My dad started at Eastern in 1947, but now it was kind of a strange setup the way he started. He moved from football and bought a drugstore in Ironton, Ohio. He basically said, I've had enough football. I need to change my way and try to do something different. Of course, he wasn't a druggist or anything like this, but he thought, well, he could do a drugstore. And that year, he got a phone call from Eastern, and Dr. O'Donnell and the head coach, which was Tom Samuels, wanted to come down and talk to him. So he said, well, come on down. So they went to Ironton and talked to him and asked him if he could take the position of backfield coach at Eastern. And he's, of course, he wanted to do football still. It was in his blood. So he took the job and came down to Eastern. This began his history with Eastern. And at the time he started, which is kind of unique, there were only 3 coaches on the Eastern staff at that time. Three coaches. That's all that coached at Eastern at that year. And if we look at now down the football field at a game, and there is a dozen plus or more. I don't know how many they've got down there now. It seems like they got more coaches than they do players sometimes. But this changed everything from the time on. This has been kind of a unique way things have changed. In his early days, he played against the best of his day. He truly loved the game of football, and until his day he died at the age of 99 young. We were and continue to be proud of my dad for his accomplishments, and I know that he is smiling down upon us from heaven today. Once again, I'd like to thank all of you and those that participated and that those who are in attendance here for coming today and honoring him. And I want to thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you.
Our final inductees include members of the Eastern 1940 undefeated football team. 26 men strong, the Maroons won all 8 contests by a combined score of 273-27. Coach Jerome Rankin's team shut out 5 of the 8 opponents and held 2 others to just 1 touchdown. Highlights of the season included a 20-0 win over Illinois State, a 39-0 shutout of Arkansas State, and a 35-0 blanking of Northern Illinois, and that was to begin the season. Eastern closed that magical season with a 25-0 win over Central Michigan and a 48-0 drubbing of Bowling Green. Team members included Al Dressman and Bear Rasnick, Bill Cross, Bill Hickman, Bob Goosens, Bob Mowat, two-time All-American halfback Chuck Schuster, Cliff Tennell, Francis Haas, Frank Flanagan, All-American tackle Fred Darling, George Ordick, Harold Yinger, Joe Bill Cyphers, All-American quarterback Spider Thurman, Kenneth Perry, Larry Lehman, Nelson Gordon, Ora Tussey, tackle Ralph Darling, Roy Bacchus, and fullback Ted Benedict, halfback Travis Combs, Walter Grob, and Walter Mayer. Spider Thurman was the quarterback and received little All-American honors while also being selected to the All-Kentucky Intercollegiate Athletic Conference 2 seasons and being chosen KIAC Most Valuable Player his senior year. The 1940 team also featured the Harlan County backfield. Halfback Bob Mowat, blocking back Travis Tater Combs, freshman quarterback Joe Bill Cyphers, and Spider Thurman. Joining us today from the 1940 team are 2 members of that squad and descendants of 3 other members. At this time, Athletics Director Mark Sandy will present the Hall of Fame of Distinction plaques, and we would like to recognize All-American tackle and EKU Athletics Hall of Fame member Fred Darling, represented today by daughter Cindy Codell, who will also accept the All-American plaque for her uncle Ralph Darling, who played for the 1940 team. Next is Travis Combs, who is represented by his wife, Luana. And in attendance today is 1940 team member N. Bear Rasnick of Versailles and his wife, Wu. And also here today is EKU All-American, EKU Athletics Hall of Fame member, and Colonel Legend Spider Thurman, who will speak on behalf of the 1940 Maroons. Ladies and gentlemen, our newest team of distinction, the EKU Athletics Hall of Fame, the undefeated 1940 football team.
I'd like to thank the committee that chose the 1940 team to enter the Hall of Fame. I'm so proud that you did the team, not an individual, because we were a team. We had some wonderful players on that team. After all, you know, it's been 74 years since then. And I doubt if there's anyone here who saw us play. I want to thank Burr Rasnick for being here, because he's like me, he had a hard time getting here. After all, we played at a time when we didn't have any face guards, we didn't have many pads, we had one thing, we had big cleats, and when it rained, it was like we were picking up a foot or 10 tons of mud on it. But we were, to my knowledge, the first team to go of Eastern to go undefeated and untied during the season. We had 8 games, and as Greg told you, it was phenomenal. I can't believe myself that we scored that many points and the whole 8 teams to less than 27 points. That's a defense, what I call it. But I am so honored to represent that great team, and there's only 3 that I know of that are left, and that's myself. myself and Burr Rasnick and Larry Lehman that he was so unable to be here or he'd like to come. And I certainly appreciate the support that the other players have here for us or anything. We had 3 coaches. Rome Rankin was the head coach and the backfield coach. Tom Samuels was the line coach, and Turkey Hughes was the freshman coach. Back then, the freshmen couldn't play varsity ball at all. They had a freshman team. So actually, we just had 2 coaches, a line coach and a backfield coach. But we managed to win all our games on that. And I'm so proud that the committee saw it too, that to take the team as a whole, because every one of them were regular guys. And I was going to tell you something about the teams, the teams we played, but Greg told you who we played. We had a rough schedule and won all those games. So we are happy to be here. And as far as myself, I'd like to mention the fact that you always hear, you know, when daughter is a daughter for life, and a son is a son till he meets his bride. But that's not true. I have 2 great sons who take care of me very much, and I love them very much, and they love me, and I've got a great family, and I know Burr has too, and all the rest of them. So thank you so much, the committee, who took this team in as a whole. Go, Colonels!
Well, thank you everyone for coming today. It's been a great event, and I'm in my 10th year at EKU, and I've been around Spider for the last 10 years, and he's always been such an inspiration to all of us and such a nice person. I appreciate your remarks. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee and our EKU staff, Carl Park, Greg Stottlemyre, Dan McBride, Treek Adams, Leslie Dunlap, for making this event so successful. Please join me in a round of applause for them, please. As a reminder to all of the inductees, please remain afterwards. I know all of your families will want to get pictures, but we want to get a picture of you all together as well. I'd like to close our gathering with this quote by author H. Jackson Brown, Jr. that I came across not too long ago. And I quote, "Live so that when people think of fairness, caring, and integrity, they think of you." Thank you very much.